As we record today's show, reports coming out of England that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been let go by Manchester United off the back of that humiliating 4-1 defeat against Watford. So much to discuss here. Let's first welcome in Don Hutchison to the show. And Don, just get your initial reaction to this news.
Yeah, I'm not really surprised, to be honest, Dan. It's been inevitable that it was going to come pretty quick. The performances against Liverpool were nowhere near enough. When you get spanked 5, then the City game was 2, but it could have been a lot more. And then you fast forward to the Watford game where you think there'll be a reaction. They're good enough. He's a decent manager. They've got a very, very good squad. He's assembled a squad that's worth close to £1 billion. You think they're going to roll over Watford and they get beat 4, but 4 doesn't tell the story. It could have been 6 or 7. They missed 2 penalties. Scott McTominay should have been sent off early on in the game. Harry Maguire that gets sent off late in the game. And then Ole's apologising to the fans on the pitch and Bruno's gesturing that's not Ole's fault. It's the players' fault. So in the end, you see his interview at the end of the game, Dan, and he looked a broken man. It was quite painful to watch, really.
It feels like a relationship, Stevie, in which they tried everything to make it work, but this was the final straw.
I can't remember any manager at a big club getting this much love from the owners when the team was so bad. And the fact that he's lasted this long has surprised us all, particularly in the light of the embarrassing defeats against Liverpool and City, where they were just men against boys. And we sat here on Friday, and I sat here on Friday and said, there's no possible way he could keep his job if he lost this game. No possible way. And sure enough, it looks like that's exactly what's happened. And rightly so, because Ole's had enough chances.
Yeah.
There's no manager, there's certainly no other manager can turn around and say, I had this many chances as Ole has. So Ole has no complaints. He gave it his best. We all did say that he wasn't good enough. He tried to show us that he was. But in the end, he wasn't good enough. And that's just the bare facts.
And I know, obviously, he needs to take a lot of responsibility, but that performance from that team today was embarrassing.
I think it was a performance of a team that had pretty much thrown in it all. It's a team that, if you want to offer them an excuse, didn't have much direction, aren't quite sure what they're doing, are playing with little confidence, and probably know that the writing is on the wall for the manager. And I've certainly been there when you know the manager, it's merely a case of how many games as opposed to him ever keeping his job, and how difficult it is for you as a player, knowing that change is coming. And I think that's what you saw from Manchester United. But Manchester United, the hierarchy, have kind of forced the situation on the players. It's been evident to everyone that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer simply was not good enough. But they wanted to stick by a company man who wouldn't upset the apple cart too much, that wouldn't challenge them as a board too much, in the hope that somehow just the mere fact of who they are, of their history, of their reputation, somehow delivers results. Sport doesn't work that way. And that's what you've seen now. Manchester United, arguably inarguably one of the biggest brands in world football, probably one of the biggest brands in world sport, have become a running joke for everybody.
Stevie, you were saying there were signs in this match that they just stopped listening.
Yeah, listen, when you're the coach and things are not going well, everybody looks to you to come up with the answer. And it looked as though the players had decided that they didn't believe Ole anymore. And I couldn't say that. You know, we sat here and talked about the City game and the Liverpool game. The fight that was in the Liverpool and City game, albeit misdirected, wasn't in Watford. And that's why I was saying, I got the impression that they stopped believing that Ole had the answers.
Right.
And as soon as the players don't believe in you, they're not going to listen to you. You know, and people talk about losing the dressing room. I think that's a horrible term. It's just a case of the players don't believe what you're saying anymore, because you're the last, you're the guy, you're the go-to person when things are going badly and things are going wrong. And part of your job, whether you like it or not, is you have to have the answers. And sometimes you can tell players things that are just probably not right, but it ends up working out and you get away with it. But once they believe that you don't know what you're talking about, or they don't believe what you're saying, you're toast.
What's interesting, Don, now with Solskjaer gone, is that obviously normally you would look at the vacant managers, the managers that are out there with a great resume who don't have a job at the moment, and go, right, this is going to be your targets. There aren't actually that many out there. In fact, you look at the most successful manager that isn't employed at the moment, and that's Zinedine Zidane, and reports are that he's got no interest in the job. He's quite happy in Madrid, maybe one eye on the national team after the World Cup. So the question is, like, what next? How does this play out for Manchester United? We're hearing that maybe Darren Fletcher could be brought in as an interim coach.
Wow, I mean that is huge news coming out if that is going to be the case. It reminds me of Ryan Mason when he went in at Tottenham and the job was just too big for him with no managerial experience. You know, the board at Man United have got themselves to blame because they've got no real foresight, Dan. When you go back 3 weeks ago and Ole was in trouble against Liverpool, in trouble against Man City, Antonio Conte was the man. So it's almost like the board couldn't see this coming. They had blind faith in Ole that he could get them through to the end of the season and maybe stumble over a trophy that would have made everything's okay. We've done the right thing. We stood by our man. He won us a trophy. But everyone who knows the game, we sat here 3 weeks ago saying, surely they're going to make a move for Conte. Conte's representatives have probably made the phone call to Man United and they've probably said, we're not going to sack Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. That's why probably he's made the move to Spurs. But now they're left in a little bit limbo going, well, who actually wants the job? Unless they can throw fortunes at Ten Hag and get him out of Ajax, he seems to be the man for the job because stylistically, I think that would fit. Zidane apparently doesn't want the job. He doesn't speak great English. So do they turn to Brendan Rodgers, an ex-Liverpool man? It's all just very, very messy.
What's that term about insanity? You just keep doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So they're going to do even worse than that. They're going to bring in a guy and put him in charge who had even less experience than the guy they just got rid of. No, that doesn't sum that saying up.
So what would you do?
What I would do is I would hand the reins over to Mike Phelan right now.
But he's there, isn't he? He's part of the problem. How can you have a man who's been...
You're not going to get a solution in 24 hours. That's guaranteed. And until then, you need some sort of continuity. Whether it's he's the right coach or not, you need some sort of continuity.
But continuity hasn't worked so far, has it? We've had continuity with Solskjaer for this long.
It's not about that anymore. It's not about that. It's about finding the next manager.
Right.
And until you find the next manager, you have to do what rationally is a sensible thing to do. If you just want to go and pick somebody off the street that knows nothing about United, and go ahead and do it, well, that would be even worse. So you do the sensible thing. Mike Phelan's experienced. He'll calm things down. They'll get on with playing. Might be better, might not be better, but that's not what's important. Man United right now need to start thinking about next season and climbing the league. Not about the next game. All coaches talk about, it's the next game. That's the only important thing. Forget that. Manchester United's hierarchy have to think about the future now. Not the end of the nose, but down the road.
I think an important part of thinking of that future is the club and how it's structured and how decisions are made. I think the game has moved on considerably since the days of Sir Alex Ferguson, and quite clearly Manchester United cannot operate as they are, with Woodward placing a call to Joel Glazer, and that's how every single decision is made. On who the next manager is and when to sack managers. You cannot have a board who are afraid of managers who will challenge them.
Right.
We cannot be talking about Manchester United being afraid to hire Antonio Conte. It is absolutely ridiculous that is even a thing. And that was a discussion of a few weeks ago. You need football people who are capable of taking criticism, who are capable of giving good feedback in the better interest of the club in the long term. This ridiculous notion that we don't want somebody who challenges us, that as long as our balance sheet is looking good, as long as our revenues keep going up by 16% a year, it means we'll be okay. Because you won't. Your product is the football, and when that suffers, so will the business. You've managed to avoid that challenge so far, so it's keeping Daddy happy in terms of the head glazer and what's coming back, but that catches up with you.
Sounds ironic, doesn't it? The most successful manager in the history of Manchester United Football Club was exactly the thing they don't want.
Yes, yeah, it's very true, very true. Last word on this, you, Tom. What do you do next? I don't mean like go to bed if you're United.
It wouldn't surprise me if it was someone from within, Dan, because they might just try and buy a little bit of time. They might try and buy time because they might try and stumble past Villarreal and past Chelsea, which are two unbelievably tough games. But they shouldn't panic. I don't think they should just panic tomorrow morning, just pick up the phone to Ten Hag and go, he's the man. You can have as much money as you want. We're going to promise you this, that and the other. Make sure whoever it is, whether it's from within, who can just stabilise for the short term, even towards the end of the season. But whatever you do, don't panic. Make sure you get the right man in for the job long term. But that might take a little bit of time.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.